Now, an ex-royal staff member has opened up about his time working at Buckingham Palace. Dan Ottaway, who served as a chef, claims that out of all of the royals that he catered for, Prince Andrew was difficult and more demanding than others. I mean, he's certainly not getting a good rap.
New allegations have come to light recently, yet again, about the behaviour of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor towards staff. Claims over the years have suggested he treated royal staff, police officers, and public servants with arrogance, rudeness, and open contempt, often without consequence. This latest report is not based on anonymous gossip or second-hand rumour. These accounts come from people who worked directly inside royal households, protected senior royals, or encountered Andrew in official settings, many of them speaking on the record to royal biographer Andrew Lowney. One former royal staff member has said plainly that Andrew's behaviour was so rude and dismissive that he felt close to physically confronting him.
And what he says is, look, everybody loved the royals. He loved serving them for many, many years. But Prince Andrew was quite difficult, and he was much more demanding in the words that he used than his relatives. But he had a lot of praise for Princess Kate.
Others describe a pattern of barking orders, ignoring basic manners, and expecting automatic deference simply because of who he believed himself to be. What makes these stories significant now is timing. Andrew no longer holds royal titles, military honours, or a public role. The institutional protection that once shielded him has largely disappeared. And as that protection has fallen away, people who dealt with him behind closed doors have begun speaking more openly. But apparently, he continues to act this way within Royal Lodge, even to this day. At the centre of these allegations is a long-running reputation, not for a single outburst, but for years of behaviour that many describe as entitled, demeaning, and unchecked. The recent account comes from Colin Burgess, who worked as equerry to the late Queen Mother. Burgess was experienced, senior, and well accustomed to royal protocol. He recalled seeing Andrew about once a month when he visited Clarence House, and said his manner towards staff was consistently abrupt and commanding. The moment that nearly pushed him over the edge came when Andrew entered Clarence House and demanded an item be wrapped.
Excess. So there's no love lost between the chef and Prince Andrew and Fergie.
Pointing, he barked, "You, wrap that!" Burgess later admitted that he thought to himself, "You rude, ignorant sod," and felt like decking him. Those words were not said lightly, and they reflect just how far Andrew's behaviour had gone in the eyes of someone trained to remain professional at all times. This account is echoed by others from entirely different settings. Society journalist Petronella Wyatt described meeting Andrew at an upscale country house party in the 1990s. Even in a social environment, she said, he dominated conversation, talked at people rather than with them, and ignored any attempt to change the subject. She recalled him making inappropriate jokes and showing little self-awareness. Wyatt compared him to Princess Margaret, saying he behaved as though he were more royal than the monarch herself. She described him as the most out-of-touch royal she had ever met, adding that he appeared to genuinely believe in the divine right of kings. Ken Worf, former personal bodyguard to Princess Diana and her sons, offered another perspective. He recalled being asked to give up his seat on a return flight from Balmoral so that Andrew could sit by the window.
Well, there are reports that Prince Andrew has agreed to vacate the Royal Lodge. However, he wants Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's former UK home, Frogmore Cottage.
It was not presented as a request, but as an expectation. Worf later said that Andrew had always been arrogant and that he viewed people in policing or public service as being beneath him. His assessment was blunt. Andrew's manners were awful, and his behaviour did not endear him to those around him. Beyond personal interactions, there are also repeated reports of reckless behaviour. Staff at Windsor Great Park said Andrew had a reputation for driving dangerously around the estate, forcing pedestrians to jump out of the way. One staff member compared him to Toad of Toad Hall. In 2010, Andrew was reportedly involved in an incident where he struck a police officer while speeding into Buckingham Palace. The officer allegedly suffered an arm injury and lodged a complaint. According to later accounts, no action was taken. In 2002, Andrew was stopped for driving at 60 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone. When pulled over, he reportedly refused to exit the vehicle, leaving his protection officer to deal with police. The standard penalty would have included a fine and points on his license, but Andrew was excused after reportedly saying, "I'm in a hurry." In his book entitled, Andrew Lowney draws a clear contrast between how different members of the royal family treated staff. He writes that King Charles viewed the Queen Mother's staff as companions. Andrew, by contrast, saw them simply as employees, there to be ordered about.
But officially, obviously, stripping Andrew of his royal titles, as I said last week, was going to require an act of parliament. And this enormous property that he's in, which has become a massive focus for the general public over here.
What emerges from these accounts is not a single lapse in judgment, but a continued pattern of behaviour that went largely unchecked for years, reinforced by rank and protected by status. Now that Andrew is no longer shielded by royal roles or honours, these stories are being revisited in a different light. Without the institutional buffer of the monarchy, the conduct that was once tolerated looks far less defensible. In the last few weeks, a series of new documents, emails, and photos tied to the Epstein files have been made public, and they add fresh context to the ongoing scrutiny of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's associations and behaviour. The US Department of Justice has released emails from the early 2000s showing someone identified only as A at Balmoral asking Ghislaine Maxwell whether she had found me some new inappropriate friends, language that has prompted renewed questions about his social circle at the time and the settings in which they mixed. These emails also include references to arranging trips and company while travelling abroad, though they do not prove criminal conduct on his part. At the same time, photos emerging from the same collections show Andrew in informal and social scenes with Maxwell and others in settings connected to royal properties, reinforcing how far he allowed members of Epstein's circle to access spaces traditionally reserved for the family's private life. Alongside these file releases, British news reports confirm that Andrew has surrendered his firearms licence following the loss of his royal honours, and that he was observed alone near Windsor Castle after being excluded from the royal family's Christmas celebrations, while his daughters attended with King Charles and Queen Camilla. Royal commentators and authors are also pointing to previously reported controversial party favours.
And then there are the emails from the Invisible Man. In one from August 2001, sent to Ghislaine Maxwell, they write from Balmoral asking, "Have you found me some new inappropriate friends?"
Found after some of Andrew's gatherings at royal palaces, including items described as sex-related accessories, contradicting earlier portrayals of those events as innocent shooting weekends, and adding to the sense of long-standing inappropriate behaviour at private functions. You can check out the video I posted on this a couple days ago. It's absolutely shocking. Taken together with long-standing staff accounts of his attitudes toward ordinary people and subordinates, these recent disclosures reinforce a consistent pattern in which Andrew viewed himself as superior to others, entitled to special treatment, and above the standard consequences most people would face. While none of these latest files prove criminal wrongdoing by Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor himself, they do make that pattern of behaviour clearer than ever in the public record. This is not about reinterpreting the past. It is about listening to the people who were there and acknowledging what they say they experienced. What do you think? Do you believe the allegations against Andrew? Do you think he'll ever change? If you want more reporting on the royal family, including Andrew's latest scandals, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.